Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NuMed Connect, a webinar focusing on nuclear medicine organized by Belgian and French clusters. My name is Linda Guerino, and I am in charge of events and network at Atlampol Biotherapies. Before beginning the session, just some practical points for today. So we are using GoToWebinar, and so you are all on mute. So if you have any question, do not hesitate to address them on the question box, and we'll ask the question during the session to our speakers at several moments. So another practical information is also that you will also receive the slides after the webinar. So it's an important thing to know. So the slides will be available after. So now I'll give the floor on to Ferid Haddad for words of introduction. So Ferid, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. So good morning, everyone. So welcome to our first NuMed Connect event. I'm Ferid Haddad. I'm Vice President of Atlampol Biotherapy in charge of radiopharmaceutical developments. So I'm really happy to introduce this first event of a webinar series. It is organized, as was mentioned before, by 4 different clusters, health clusters. So BioWin, Normandy Development, NuMed, and Atlampol Biotherapy. So this webinar series will take place all over this year, and this is the first session that we are doing just today. So just to briefly explain what are our aims. So our aim is to stimulate connection between actors in the field of nuclear medicine from our 4 clusters. So that means 2 things. The first thing is enhance connection among members of our clusters, and if possible, stimulate collaboration and emergence of new European projects that can be funded by Horizon Europe call of proposal. So today, for this first session, it's my pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Nicolas Mariot from NuC Advisor. So he will give us a presentation on the state of the art of nuclear medicine market and innovation. After this presentation, we will have a showcase of our different clusters. They will present their own ecosystem and topics of excellence. And finally, we will have a presentation of European Commission funding opportunities for projects. So I wish you a fruitful webinar, and I now give the floor to Nicolas Mariot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferid. So I will first share my screen for just a second. Maybe Linda, you need to, okay, thanks. Okay, so I suppose you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So thank you for having invited me to this launching webinar of NuMed Connect. I'm Nicolas Mariot. I'm a nuclear engineer, my training, and I'm here basically because I've been working on various strategic studies over the last years for public and private players across the nuclear medicine sector. And I'll come back later to that. Just an important precision, I don't have a specific healthcare background, so please forgive any medical approximation in my presentation, if any. So I have the challenging task to deliver you an exhaustive view of the nuclear medicine market as of today and its future perspective that I believe will contribute to continue make this market grow within the next decades. The sector already faced major evolution in the past and shall continue to do so. So before starting this presentation, just a few words about NuC Advisor, the company I'm working for. NuC Advisor is a French consulting company established by former executives of the nuclear sector. We provide consultancy services to our public and private clients in the fields of nuclear technologies, nuclear safety, decommissioning, dismantling, nuclear economics, and also on nuclear medicine. And on this specific sector, we regularly implement market surveys, technical and financial support studies to our investors, and business case development. And we have been involved in different new build projects across the world for radionuclide production installations in Netherlands, in Bolivia, Jordan, or South Africa. And in the last years, we have become a privileged partner of the European Commission, for which we implemented various strategic studies related to nuclear medicine and non-power application of ionizing radiations. We, for example, actively contributed to the SAMIRA Action Plan of the European Commission, published early last year, by providing different strategic studies, either to identify the market specificities of nuclear medicine sector, the economics for radionuclides and radiopharmaceuticals within the EU, or more recently, we worked on the radionuclide supply chains and how to secure them in the future. So most of our studies are publicly available, so don't hesitate to have a look at them. My presentation will be divided in two parts. First, I will discuss the current status of nuclear medicine market in Europe and in the world. And after that, we'll speak about the upcoming opportunities that could positively impact the market in the future. So first, I think it's important to state that nuclear medicine holds a very specific place among the global healthcare markets. It remains a relatively limited discipline in terms of market share, while having become at the same time essential for the diagnostic purposes. I'll come back later to therapeutic applications that were limited in the past but should drastically increase in the future. So while considering the global healthcare markets, that's to say roughly $10,000 billion, the global medical imaging market is only a small part of it, less than 1%, and it gathers all the structural and the functional imaging technologies. And if we continue to dig to identify the nuclear medicine position among this already limited market, looking at the EU, for example, the nuclear medicine imaging market only represents 11 million procedures per year, roughly. And this has to be compared to 4 times more MRI examinations, 6 times more CT scan, or thousands of times more for radiology or ultrasound. So through the eyes of the general public or even the health authorities, the nuclear medicine still appears as a niche, cutting-edge technology market. One other important precision when digging out the global use of nuclear medicine, when speaking about nuclear medicine market, it's important to remind that it is a discipline that relies on various resources and specialties. First, the equipment that are constantly evolving through the years with better image quality, less dose for the patient, and that are ultimately replaced every decade in average. Then there is, of course, the radiopharmaceutical part, where radiopharmaceuticals are either manufactured on site or purchased externally. And then there is all the supporting staff needs following nuclear medicine department to operate on a daily basis. So the doctors, the radiopharmacists, the physicians, the installations, and so on. So here, when speaking about nuclear medicine market, I will really focus on the radiopharmaceutical market part. So when looking at the global nuclear medicine market, about 50 million procedures are performed each year, including both the diagnostic, the SPECT, and the PET, and the therapy. And despite the high PET growth during the last 2 decades, the technician-labeled procedures for SPECT remains the workhorse of the nuclear medicine sector. Roughly 80% of global yearly procedures, with fluorine-18 comes second for PET scan, with roughly 10% of global yearly procedures. The remaining being shared between a large number of less used radiopharmaceuticals labeled with iodine, gallium, lutetium, and so on. In terms of geographical breakdown, North America has historically be the highest market share, almost 50%, followed by Europe and Asia. And the remaining only represent a few percent of the global market. But such world region balance is expected to be modified in the future, considering the growth trends observed in the recent years. Nuclear medicine market, for example, the penetration is currently quite low in Asia and rest of the world. The bottom right chart shows that when comparing procedures per habitant, there are 7 times more procedures in Europe than in Asia, but such disparities are expected to be reduced in the future because Asian and rest of the world markets demand should rise sharply. The procedural growth is never as limited by the health expenses increase and the cancer treatment availability, because if no treatment are available, there's no need for imaging. The OECD assumes an overall 5% per year growth of health expenditures in this region, but even higher growth could be expected for nuclear medicine. In China, for example, during the last decade, an average growth for SPECT and PET of respectively 8 and 12% was recorded. And for the sole Chinese market, shall rise from 1.3 million procedures in 2010, and this should reach about 8 million procedures by the end of this decade, so showing the high expected growth. And on the other hand, the demand has been quite stable in Europe and North America since 5 to 10 years, with growth up to 1% per year, depending on countries, for existing procedures and radiopharmaceuticals. So I'm saying that because these evolutions, of course, do not take into consideration the future nuclear medicine market evolutions that are currently at research stage. The evolution of targeted radionuclide therapy grows, the targeted alpha therapy, the radioimmunotherapy, and so on. Oh, sorry. So I just spoke about region market disparities, but inside a single region, it's also interesting to note that each country has its own specificities, making each national nuclear medicine market quite unique. Here on the left, I display the ratio of technetium and fluorine-18 labeled procedures per million inhabitants for a few countries in Europe. Data were gathered a few years ago. The market per habitant and per radionuclide or radiopharmaceutical, can go to a factor 5 to 10 among countries for different reasons that should be recalled. First, the national health recommendation and good practices developed by national nuclear medicine societies differ among countries. The different types of procedures can be used for the same diagnostic purpose, or maybe the cost, the equipment, the radiation protection consideration can push recommendations toward a specific imaging examination rather than other, for example. Then there is the national pathologies that are based on population health specificities. If we take the example of thyroid screening, this is not used with the same frequency across Europe. In Sweden, for 10 million inhabitants, you have 6,000 thyroid examinations per year. And in Germany, for a population which is 8 times more, 80 million inhabitants, you have 700,000 thyroid examinations. That's to say 10 times more people, but 100 times more examinations. Then there is also the existence of market authorization for sure, and the reimbursement mechanisms that can be different between countries, and that will have a direct impact on the use of the imaging and the treatment capacities. The absence of reimbursement can drastically limit the use of a procedure, especially in therapeutics. And the reimbursement limitation can also impact the development of a technology when you put thresholds. And then, last but not least, the availability of equipment and supply can hinder the development and use of a radiopharmaceutical. So all these parameters make the understanding of each national nuclear medicine market quite complex. So how to assess this global market? The nuclear medicine industry gathered a wide range of national and international players, some of them having their business purely centered around nuclear medicine, while many companies, in fact, are more generally healthcare industrial players, with nuclear medicine being only one of their business line, sometimes representing even only a small share of their turnover. Cardinal Health, one of the biggest US players of the nuclear medicine sector, it's only 1% of their revenue, but they are a major player indeed. So thus, evaluating precisely the volume of the nuclear medicine market on the basis of hundreds of companies' turnover is rather undoable. So let's come back to yearly nuclear medicine procedures. This is, to my knowledge, the best way to assess the market, but we can easily extrapolate on the basis of the number and the types of procedure performed, and knowing the average dose prices, we can extrapolate the overall market. And with such approach, we can this leads us to the following overall estimate. The technetium labeled radiopharmaceutical market can be evaluated to roughly 2.5 billion euros, representing more or less half of the global market for almost 80% of the procedures, while the fluorine-18 label products represent only which represents only 10% of the global procedures, represent a market share of roughly 20%. That's to say 1 billion euros. Then there is also the remaining radiopharmaceuticals or the products, which can be estimated to roughly half a billion euros. And I'm excluding here a few products like the Xofigo from Bayer or the Lutathera from Novartis, on which I shall say a few words. The Xofigo and the Lutathera are two examples of potential growth drivers that could drastically modify the nuclear medicine market shape in the future. Xofigo, which is a radium-223 label radiopharmaceutical, came into the market in 2013 after having shown a better medial overall survival for metastatic prostate cancer. Bayer initially bought the product in 2013 through the Algeta purchase and forecasted a 1 billion peak annual sale. Well, so far the drug failed to live up to that bidding, but it succeeded to stabilize itself around 400 million euros annual sales. And while Xofigo was just for palliative treatment, it opened the way for a large-scale targeted therapeutic applications. And Lutathera is, I think, a right example. It went even beyond, directly competing with standard chemotherapy treatment for neuroendocrine tumors. After the acquisition of AAA by Novartis in 2017, Lutathera got its market approval in 2018 and quickly succeeded to secure a 400 million euros market, paving the way for future targeted radionuclide therapies possibilities. So in total, the current nuclear medicine market represents roughly 5 billion euros. With really strong growth opportunities within the next decades due to therapeutic applications. So, as shown through the example of Lutathera, the future therapeutic applications could bring new dynamics to nuclear medicine market. So let's now discuss quickly what are the radiopharmaceuticals and the innovations under development that could impact the market within the next 20 years. The left figure gives a summary of the various radionuclides currently used in nuclear medicine application and those under development or clinical trials. And three main driver growth can be seen from that. First, the development of beta targeted radionuclide therapeutics, following the Lutathera example. For beta therapy, a sharp growth is already underway for lutetium-177, but a lot of research is also put today on scandium-47, copper-67, rhenium-188, or terbium. Then there is also the development of targeted alpha therapy that also appears as a promising treatment approach using the specificities of the alpha particles properties. So that's to say a more limited range in tissue, and a higher linear energy transfer, so a more lethal impact per particle than for beta. But the success of targeted alpha therapy remains difficult to predict, as most radiopharmaceuticals labeled with alpha emitters are still at early R&D stage. Actinium being actinium labeled compound being the most advanced ones. So we'll come back later on that to illustrate the upcoming challenges to overcome to allow targeted alpha therapy deployment or any other radiopharmaceutical. And then there is the need for new imaging procedures with pairing use with these alpha and beta radiopharmaceuticals. Because even if for SPECT imaging, technicians should continue to do the work out of the nuclear medicine sector, far ahead all of the radionuclide, and the same for fluorine 18 and PET imaging, there are a lot of other possibilities to be done in pairing, and with also the concept of theranostic, using the same radionuclide for both imaging and therapeutic. A large quantity of radiopharmaceuticals are in development, and they are all at different stages, of course, but today this represents more than 100 radiopharmaceuticals, and among them almost 2/3 are for imaging and 1/3 for therapy. And if we look at clinical studies, it gives an interesting order of magnitude of the medical community interest for these radiopharmaceuticals, and more than that, it gives an idea of what is the current state of play and what are the product with the most active research. If you look at clinicaltrial.gov website, some interesting statistics can be found. I think last time I did that, almost 90 clinical studies were underway for lutetium, the 177, making it the most promising radionuclide to label with for targeted radionuclide therapy, followed by yttrium and radium-223. And on the other hand, so 90 clinical studies for lutetium.
Nicolas, you're not on the right slide.
Ah.
Yeah.
I will just finish with that. See, yes, it's the bottom on the figure on the bottom right. And for I was saying for actinium-225, you can only find 10 to 15 clinical studies at the moment. So showing the interest for the research. But one common ambition to most of these radiopharmaceuticals is to address major types of cancer and make nuclear medicine switch from a last position treatment, and that's to say to a front treatment possibility. If we take the example of prostate cancer, which is the most common cancer among men, with a yearly incidence of almost 500,000 people in Europe only, I think, about 1 man out of 8 will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in his lifetime, which is huge. And for such specific cancer, looking at pipelines, or at least the disclosed one, you can identify 10 to 20 radiopharmaceuticals that are in development to deal with prostate cancer, and most of them are labeled with lutetium, but also a few of them are with actinium or bismuth, and these developments are under various stages, from preclinical stage to phase 2 clinical trials. For example, for the lutetium PSMA 617 from now Novartis. And on the other hand, it's interesting to note that most of these radiopharmaceuticals companies are also developing their own imaging agents in line with the theranostic approach objective I spoke earlier. So prior reaching the market, several challenges remain to be tackled by the research and the industry, and I think it's important to illustrate that. If we take the example of alpha emitters, the targeted alpha therapy could be a major next evolution in the therapeutic field. Actinium being currently the most advanced one for therapeutic applications. Many radiopharmaceuticals are under development. If you look at, I put on the left the pipeline of actinium pharmaceuticals. that are already working on almost 10 applications for their radiopharmaceuticals labeled with actinium, and they are already targeting different blood cancers, prostate, colon, brain cancer tumors, as it can be seen on their pipeline. But many challenges remain at this stage, and from then will depend the final market entry feasibility, and in case of success, its potential market interest. So let's list them quickly. So first, there is the radiochemical challenge, because if we take the example of actinium, there's a need to ensure that the radiopharmaceutical stability during its decay process. So needs to find suitable chelating moieties to bind with actinium and to avoid daughter isotopes to be freely released within the patient. And the complex chemical behavior of actinium remain another strong challenge. Then there is the supply chain consideration, because a large and global market entry of a radiopharmaceutical will necessitate to secure the radionuclide supply chain associated. And this remains a specific challenge for targeted alpha therapy or targeted radionuclide therapies. Then there is also the challenge of proving the medical interest for first-line treatment through time-consuming and quite costly international clinical trials that often necessitate strong financial support from large pharmaceutical players. Then there is the regulatory acceptance, because when using actinium or lutetium compound, this raises specific concern in terms of radiation protection, in terms of radioactive waste management. There is a need for special equipment, facilities, improved regulation. So there is also a strong challenge in making all these new possibilities on the market. And then there is, of course, the competition with with other treatments, with either the existing ones or the future one under development. And then the accessible market will depend, of course, the market for radiopharmaceutical, as it depends on the cancer incidence, the market penetrations, the financing and the reimbursement capacity of a state, and it is highly linked to the treatment cost that will impact the reimbursement feasibility and the cost comparison and cost benefit analysis with existing treatments. So hence, predicting the future of nuclear medicine market is a quite difficult exercise that will ultimately depend on various parameters which are still unknown at this stage. And the success of the failure of new therapeutic treatments could drastically change the overall nuclear medicine market shape. So what could be a realistic evolution in this case of nuclear medicine market, while cautiously considering all the previously discussed points? So based on pipeline developments, on the clinical trial progress, what could be foreseen is maybe a two-step growth of the market, because targeted radionuclide therapy experienced already a sharp development in the last year, and this should continue to do so, considering the successful deployment of some products already available or expected to shortly enter the market. And then it could be followed by a second wave addressing more larger with a wider spectrum range in terms of cancer addressed. But in any case, the therapeutic radiopharmaceutical market could shortly exceed by far the imaging one in terms of revenues, but this should remain in terms of number of procedures quite limited. So what is needed, in fact, to support such major evolutions? And I think that to support the transition of nuclear medicine from a mainly imaging field to a front treatment for cancer, strong collaboration is expected between the research sector, the industrial players of the radiopharmaceutical industry, and of course the pharmaceutical players. And the figure here, I put that to illustrate the complexity of bringing a decisive idea to clinical development. Past examples show that having cluster initiatives, making close collaboration possible between scientists, researchers, doctors, and patients is essential to continue making Europe a leading player in the nuclear medicine field. So thank you for your attention. I'm I'll be glad to answer to your question if you have some.
Thank you, Nicolas. Yeah, we received some questions. So first one is about market evaluation. What about radiotherapy? Don't you include it in the market evaluation?
No. Here I really focused on the radiopharmaceutical part. So the question was, you mean about the evolution of the radiotherapy market, the external radiotherapy market?
Yeah, I think.
Well, I think we saw that the equipments became more and more efficient through the years, and the latest evolution, either for standard past approach with X-rays, or in the future, I'm thinking about the evolution of external therapy, the fact that now proton therapy is really pushed by public power. This is a great sign of evolution. I don't have specific figures in mind for the radiotherapy, because here it's a complex exercise, because you have on one side the equipment, and you can easily I should say price define the price of the equipment, but after the investment is done, then it's free to each service to use it the way it can. So defining the market is quite complex for external radiotherapy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Another question about the figures you gave concerning the market evaluation. So it's when you said the $5 billion, is it worldwide or is it in Europe only?
No, it's worldwide. It's worldwide.
Okay.
We basically for that I just took the global evaluation in terms of procedures and using some average those price.
Okay, thank you for this precision. So we have some questions are arriving. So do you have an idea on the XY values for the prediction of growth of the TRNT and TAT markets?
Well, as I said, it's quite a complex guess, because this will directly depend on as long as there's no product on the market, there is no there is no associated market, and as soon as one product is get its market authorization, then it's a matter of first, it's a matter of marketing, because again, as I said, you need to push your product, and if you look at the example of Lutathera, so that's to say having a quite large company with Novartis that pushed the Lutathera development, the sale skyrocketed quite quickly. I think, well, during the last 2 years, because of COVID, the Lutathera sales were quite stable, but I think this will continue to grow after the pandemic. So no, I think that the global market evolution is quite difficult to predict, because it will depend on the number of radiopharmaceuticals that will reach the market. That's to say, if you only have 1 or 2 successful radiopharmaceuticals, these are based on a label with alpha or beta, so lutetium or actinium. This will be drastically different if 10 to 15 are accessing the market. But in the end, this will also depend on the. And I think this is a major factor, the reimbursement capacity for the different states. because what we experienced in the past is that as long as there is no reimbursement possibilities and acceptance by health authorities of such treatments, it's quite complex to make these figures go up.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 questions. So the first one, will all nuclear medicine centers realize therapeutic procedures in the future, or will we see a split in terms of activities?
Well, it's an interesting question because to my knowledge, I mean, I'm not a nuclear medicine doctor, but to my knowledge, the use of certain therapies necessitates very specific structures. And what I mean is that you will need to switch from, for example, radiopharmacy services that were dedicated to handle more limited dose with generators and imaging doses, to really more radioactive inputs, radiopharmaceuticals. And on the other end, for example, for the administration to the patients, some treatment will necessitate to collect urine and stool sample from the patient. So this will mean to have dedicated rooms. So I think it will really depend on the authorities' requirements to put in place such new therapeutics applications. So it will maybe depend among the countries or stringent radiation protection and safety organization. Maybe this could limit or push for new investment to allow such use of new radiopharmaceuticals.
Yeah, and another questions, I think it's the same subject. It's about magistral preparation. So it's preparation, I think, in hospitals or in, so it's the same. It depends on the regulations issues.
It will for me. It will really depend on the regulation, because investment will have to be done for sure to allow such deployment. But it's hard to guess what will be the condition and the requirement raised by radiation protection and safety organizations, authorities, not organizations.
Okay. And maybe the last question. So most of the opportunities developments you presented are related to metallic radionuclides. Does this mean that non-metallic radionuclides and small molecules offer less opportunities for the future?
Well, no, I don't have a precise answer on that. You should have to re-ask that to a specialist. For the moment, I think that right now there is a strong focus on this metallic radionucleide for label width, but it doesn't prevent any other approach to develop in the future. But right now, that's right. That's true that the opinion is really focused on these ones.
Okay.
Sorry for the noise. I think there are people are working in another apartment. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Nicolas, for this clear presentation. And
Welcome.
for the audience, do not hesitate to address other questions. I will give them directly to Nicolas, and maybe he can answer them directly on the chat.
Yeah, with pleasure.
So now we can move on the second session on the presentation of European ecosystems in the field of nuclear medicine. And we begin with Marianne Guyot from BioWin. So I'll give you the floor in a few moments. So now it's okay.
Do you see?
We can see your screen, but it's not the presentation.
Do you see the presentation now?
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Linda. So I'm Marianne Guillot from BioWin Cluster, and I'm the Director of Research and Innovation. So for today, I will present BioWin in a nutshell, and then focus on the ecosystem dedicated to radiations applied to health. So BioWin is the health competitiveness cluster of Wallonia. It was founded in 2006, and our mission is to create a positive impact in health innovation and to showcase Wallonia as a first world-class life science research environment in cell and gene therapy, vaccines and biologics, and health innovation. And collaborative innovation is in our DNA. So how is to bring all together the Walloon players involved in research, development, and production of innovative products and services, and to foster collaborative initiatives between all the players in these slides within Wallonia, but also at the international level with the support of the government. Our strategy is 5 services dedicated to 4 strategic areas in biopharmacy, medical devices and in vitro diagnostics, radiation applied to health, and digital health. I will focus more on the research and innovation part in this presentation. About the ecosystem, our members counts for 250, with 10 global leaders in biopharma and radiation with IRE and IBEA, 187 innovative SMEs, and a strong network of research laboratories with the 5 universities. Now, if we consider the breakdown between the technological domain, we can see that the radiation applied to health count 12 SMEs, which is a small part of the pie. Another aspect to close this BioWin presentation is that Wallonia biopharma industry is a main driver for economic growth, representing 35% of the Wallonia total export. It represents 50,000 FTEs with a continuous employment growth, and in terms of cumulative capital, capital, you can see that there is a growth, and in 2020 there were nearly $3 billion invested in SMEs. Now, about the ecosystem of radiopharma, we can say that Belgium is internationally recognized for its significant role in nuclear medicine, with the SCK, CEN, Centre d'études de l'énergie nucléaire, IRE, Institut des radioéléments and its subsidiary, and IBA, and also the universities, which are the major players and pioneers in research. What we can also say is that Belgium is one of the 5 global players in the production and distribution of medical radioisotopes. 1 out of the 3 hospitals in the world specializing in nuclear medicine uses Belgian technology. and SCK-CN with IRE provides 25% of the world production of molybdenum-99 for SPECT imaging, and IBA is a world player in the field of proton therapy. Now, Nicolas mentioned that there are some key challenges, and here on this slide, I summarize some key initiatives for the production of key radioisotopes for imaging and therapies. And you can see that there are strategic partnerships going on at the moment. For the molybdenum-99, there is the SMART project, which aims to develop a new alternative and sustainable method with an electron accelerator. This means without the use of reactors and uranium. The first production is foreseen in 2028, and it is a partnership between IRE and a Dutch company. Then for the production of gallium, this will be done via the installation of IBA cyclotron, the cyclone icon, on the IRE site for the production of germanium-68. And this will, gallium-68 will be generated via the generator, which are manufactured by IRE Elite. Then we have a new cyclotron, which has been recently launched by IBA for the production of several radioisotopes. I have listed a few here, but there are many others. And finally, there is a strong focus at the moment for lutetium and actinium as a promising radioisotope for theranostic for the lutetium, and promising for the cancer treatment for alpha therapy. And there are joint efforts to produce this radioisotope, again with SCK-CN4 and IRE Elite for the lutetium, and SCK with IBA for the actinium. Now, in Wallonia, as I mentioned, is a small but mature and dynamic ecosystem. I have listed here the major actors which are members of the cluster, and you can see a network of industries and also with academics, and they are working and collaborating together. I mentioned the production and the new methods for radioisotopes, the cyclotron manufacturing and proton therapy, the manufacturing of radiopharmaceuticals with the development of different solutions and turnkey solutions for radiopharmacies, radioprotection and radioactive waste handling, a lot of R&D activities which are very important with imaging and services developed to conduct preclinical and clinical research. A new field is the image analysis and artificial intelligence integration to build decision support system for health professional, biotech, industries, and academic researchers. There is a strong network of expertise to complete the whole value chain, engineering, artificial intelligence, IT, regulatory, and IP. And there are training programs. Now, the two last slides, I will focus on the ongoing research projects, which are supported by BioWin. I mentioned in the beginning that among the 5 services, research and innovation is an important pillar of the cluster. We launched 2 to 3 calls per year, and we currently have in our portfolio 9 ongoing projects dealing with radiation applied to health. I will not present this 9 project, but just a selection of some ongoing. 2 projects are dedicated to new imaging and therapeutic approach. The M2 Target project aims to develop a non-invasive imaging method with gallium-68 for the detection and quantification of M2 macrophage to diagnose and monitor cardiac sarcoidosis. And the coordinator of this project is Absinthe, a new company. And of course, this is in collaboration with other industries and academics. And another project, which is called FAR. FAR aims to develop an industrialized and simplified solution for the production of radio-labeled antibody fragment for radioimmunotherapy. And the coordinator of this project is Tracis. Other ongoing project supported by BioWin in collaboration with another cluster, which is Megatech, is about proton therapy. There are currently ongoing projects. An important one is the project Protterwall. These projects are led by IBA with industries and academics. In the case of Protterwall, is IBA with all the French-speaking universities in Belgium. It's a big research project in proton therapy with different work packages on radiophysics, physics, biology, chemistry, imaging, and medicine. And the objective is to create a proton therapy center in Charleroi dedicated to research and patient treatment. There are 2 other projects on proton therapy, which aim to develop new technique to deliver the dose continuously during the rotation of the gantry. This is the RPT project. And there is a new project, EPT1, using flash and grid techniques in collaboration with GIP Aronnax. And also, parallel to this, a new project addressing the dosimetric challenges for carbon, arc, and flash therapies. So these are I would say, the news about research supported by the cluster, and this closes my presentation with the bio team, the BioWin team, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Marianne. We'll take the questions at the end of the session with all the clusters. So now we will have the presentation of Normandy ecosystem in France. So I will give the floor on to Laure Lehaut. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Can you see the presentation?
We can see the presentation, but I can't see you.
Oh.
Where are you? Yeah,
Here.
it's better.
Okay. So
Can you put it on the diaporama?
Here.
Yeah.
Are we good?
Just have to change the affichage parameter.
I'm in diaporama myself, so
This display a diaporama on full screen.
So it's paramètre d'affichage en haut.
Attends, excuse-moi. Affichage. Non. Quand je le mets en full screen chez moi, ça ne le met pas en full screen chez toi, c'est ça?
C'est ça. C'est diaporama.
Et donc, il faut que j'aille dans l'interface GoToMeeting?
Non, là, diaporama.
Bah, si j'appuie là.
Voilà, et en haut, paramètres d'affichage.
Et je n'ai pas de en haut paramètres d'affichage, moi. Attends, ah si, c'est caché, pardon.
Voilà. Par déjà, j'ai basculé en mode.
Tu l'as fait pour moi, là, c'est bon?
Non, non, je peux pas le faire pour toi. Désolée. Sorry.
Yes.
Basculer. Perfect. That's it.
So, hi, everyone. I'm Laure, and I'm head of Invest area here in Core Normandy Development. First of all, I want to thank Untitled Biotherapy for the amazing organization. And I will present to you the nuclear for health ecosystem in Core Normandy. So first of all, Core Normandy, it's a township here in northwest of France. We have 420,000 inhabitants, and I have to tell it because people think that we are a small town, and no, we are not. We're a big town, okay? And one of our particularity is that we have 33,000 students. That is a lot for such a town. It's a great place to live, work, and make good science thanks to first-class facilities, especially in the field of nuclear physics and atomic. We have designed in the center of our city a science park called Hippopia Park that has the specificity to concentrate a lot of skills and competencies in a very small area. So on those very small area, you have 1,000 of researchers and 14,000 students specialized in healthcare, nuclear for health, and digital science. And we'll zoom then on the facilities we have on that slide. But just you'll have the slides after that presentation, and I invite you to visit Hippopia Park because we designed a virtual visit, and you'll be able to discover every platform on it. So if we zoom on the map, you see that on that very small area in space, you have a coexistence of SMEs and facilities. So in the center of Hippopia Park, we have the healthcare centers, so the teaching hospital and the cancer specialized hospital, but also a proton therapy center called Arcade. We also have platforms like Ganil and Spiral 2, but also Cicéron, universities that provides all the talents you need, and health incubator and labs. And that concentration on a very small area helps to collaborate between university, hospitals, labs, and SMEs. So it's very efficient for us to make projects emerge. You have to know also that our teaching hospital is going to be rebuilt, and the work has already begun for €500 million. And it's a great opportunity to source new innovations, especially in nuclear for health, because we'll design a brand new nuclear medicine services to do that. So on Hippopia Park, we can address the cancer with 3 amazing centers. First of all, the Francois Backlash Center is a cancer hospital, has been designed best specialized hospital in 2021. You have 30 people in nuclear medicine department for radioprotective rooms, and that hospital has been labelized by INCA as specialized clinical trial center in early stage trials on innovative molecules for cancer. Then you have the teaching hospital. The picture you see is presentation of what the hospital will look like in 2024. And in that teaching hospital, you have 1 TEP scan, 3 gamma camera, one of which is a CZT camera, 1 research unit with clinical research center, biological resources centers, cancer research unit, and the complete rebuild is sought with a switch to ambulatory paradigm. So it's also very exciting to source great innovations. And last but not least, the ARCAD Center for Advanced Research Centers for Hadron Therapy in Europe has a Protein 1 equipment that allows to treat 3,150 patients a year with proton therapy. And we are also collaborating with IBA to produce a C400 cyclotron able to deliver protons and carbon beam. ARCAD has great collabs within the France Hadron cluster with Cornis and Orsay, but also with Italy and Japan. On Hippopia Park, we also provide great R&D because, as I said before, we have a great concentration of researchers and labs. And so, thanks to that concentration, Normandy ecosystem addresses all stages of genetic production. The Ciceron platform has a LDM-TEP platform that provides a know-how in molecule labeling. You have a drug lab called CERM that designs meds for neurosciences, and the GREC lab is well known for modelization, data analysis, and artificial intelligence. On Hippopia Park, you can find also great concentration of platforms. On top of them, we have the GANIL, that is one of the leading laboratories in the world engaged in research with ion beam, Ciceron, that imaging platform for biomedicines, but also an association of all the labs, GREC, LPC Caen, GANIL, that design the PMRT platform that aims to collect the treatment applied and the clinical results in order to develop tumor control and patterns. So what I try to tell here that we have in Normandy multiple initiatives, projects on nuclear for medicine. Because it's a science park, you can find also training, so all the talents you need to do good science and to do your research. And I can focus on the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master's Degree on nuclear physics, for example. Like my colleague in Belgium, we have a small but very efficient ecosystem with a lot of SMEs, so startups dealing with health and intelligence, artificial intelligence, labs, and pharmaceutical companies, and also specialized companies in nuclear physics like IBA or Polytechnic. To help the project emerge, we can provide a lot of coaching, and we are very pleased here in Normandy to benefit from the support of Aclampol Biotherapy. But we also have other clusters in pharmaceutical, health tech for startups, energy, and NES, Normandy e-Santé, that provides access to the market, for example. We also provide housing for all those projects. So we have a SAT called Normandy Valorisation, an incubator, but also real housing. I mean, we are building now a research house on Hippopia to welcome you in the best conditions possible, and also 93 activity areas. And that housing has been seen and recognized everywhere because we are actually welcoming projects from all over the world. Speaking about projects, I'm not going to detail them because I want my colleagues to speak on it, but in the teaching hospital, they are actually working on a project called Terranosea. So it's combining a diagnostic approach and artificial intelligence to treat prostate cancer thanks to interest molecules like lutetium, for example. We also have a project in GANIL called REPAR. I will let my colleagues to speak about them. We also welcomed Congress and fair trades like the EPAC 20 about accelerator of particles. And the last but not least project is that rebuild of the teaching hospital that will provide, I think, great opportunities. Some success stories due to the proximity of the actors during the COVID crisis, because we had great company like LDIM working in digital science, great lab like LoopD Science, where we're able to design a quick test for COVID that has been CE stamped and sold to the army very quick. So this is one example of how the proximity of high-level actors can lead to quick and successful projects. So this is all for me right now. Thank you all, and I'm available for your questions.
Thank you, Laure. So we'll meet you again at the end of the session. And now we'll be hearing from Eurobiomed, a cluster, a French cluster based in south of France. So Emmanuel Lebouder will connect to present you Eurobiomed.
Hello. Okay. To share the presentation.
So we can see your screen now.
Okay. This is one.
Yeah.
PDF file. Yeah. Okay. Up. Full screen. Okay. Can you see it full screen? Yeah. Okay. Super. Okay. First, thank you very much, Linda, for the organization of this first meeting. So Eurobiomed, I'm gonna give you very few figures about who we are and what we are doing, because I think you all knows what is a cluster and what are our main missions. So Eurobiomed, we are covering the whole south of France, from Nice to Toulouse, gathering all the players in the health tech sector. Our first missions are to support transformation of innovation into a health product for the patient. And of course, it's also to accelerate the development of companies. So Eurobiomed, so we are a non-profit organization, like all the pôles de competitivity in France. We are having a bit more than 400 members, including more than 340 innovative companies, mainly small and middle-sized companies. We have very few big companies on the territory. We are gathering as well all the university, hospital, institute, and research center of the territories, since the big institute in CERN, CNRS are members of the clusters. And we are here to help them to innovate, help them to find financial support. So actually, I'm the director of innovation. So this is mainly the activity I'm doing in the cluster. And we are here as well to help them to develop the company with dedicated services. So Eurobiomed, it's a bit more than 340 R&D projects granted since the creation of the cluster. Meaning a bit more than 100 billion euros in terms of public funding raised. Last year, it's a bit more than 80 individual services that have been done directly to companies. And we have as well developed some accelerators that are dedicated to the health sector. Of course, we are not working alone. We are in the network of all the partners for innovation, in close contact with academic research and TTO and incubators, with the investor and with industrial players. So basically, what our 4 missions are. First, it's to strengthen the network and the connection. And this is, as it was said in the introduction, one of the purpose of these meetings on nuclear medicine is to try to help people to connect in order to develop businesses and also to develop a collaborative project. So this is one of our first activity. The second part is to foster innovation and SMEs growth. So we have all the services dedicated to innovation and to public fund source of funding to help you to find this public source of funding and to apply to this source. And the second part is really dedicated to the business of the company, try to raise private funding, work on regulatory strategies. So we have dedicated service in this related to this. The third part of our activity is to promote and value our members, notably towards venture capitalists and towards large company in order to make deals and collaboration. And the last part of our activity is to structure the ecosystem. So I went very fast through what is Eurobiomed, since you know what is a cluster. In terms of nuclear medicine on our territory, I try to summarize on this slide what are the main strong point, I would say, of Eurobiomed and its territory. So we have a very strong clinician and academic research in this field, with 4 dedicated centers dedicated to oncologies, with the Centre Antoine Lacassagne, Institut Paoli Calmette, Institut Cancer Montpellier, and Institut Cancer Toulouse Oncopole. And we have as well 3 big university hospitals with strong activity in terms of clinic activity and R&D in nuclear medicine. So you have here some strong point related to this center. What is very interesting as well, it's if we look also at connections that are already made between all of us. So in Toulouse, for example, we have the LABEX Iron that is already a good connection with the Loire Valley and Caen, since they collaborate on this field of nuclear medicine. So basically, one of the key and strength of our territory is a clinical and R&D research here in the south of France. As it was mentioned by BioWin, our industrial network is quite small in this field, which is quite logical, I would say. But we have actors that are covering different parts in terms of this field of nuclear medicine, in terms of new cyclotron and radiopharmaceutic development with PMB. We have companies that are more focused in the field of imaging and how to improve and help the clinician to do the analysis of imaging. We have company focusing on delivery of radiopharmaceutic like Vectorus, who can go through the blood-brain barrier and that have launched a clinical program related to nuclear medicine. And we have as well companies that are working in a part that is more how to better manage treatment and side effect in terms of nuclear medicine approach. And of course, we have on the territory still under construction the Jules Horowitz reactor. So this is to give you roughly what are the type of actors we can find here, and that we can try to help as well to connect with other clusters in order to develop collaboration. I didn't put any example of projects that we managed to grant in this field because I think for this first presentation it's a bit early, but I think through the next meeting we will try to organize. It can be a way to share with our members and all together what can be a project to be fostered. So thank you very much. And of course, all this is possible thanks to the support of our funders.
Thank you, Emmanuel. And now we will finish the session with the presentation of Atlampol Biotherapy. So Benoît Jules, I give you the floor.
So good morning, everyone. I am Benoît Jules Ubicissimo, Head of Project Development at Atlampol. It is the biocluster based in Western France. Before presenting our nuclear medicine innovation landscape, I'm going to give a short presentation of the cluster. So the cluster is based in Western France, I've just said, and covers 3 regions. The original region was, being Pays de la Loire, then Bretagne and Central Loire. About some key fighters from last year, from 2020, the cluster gathers 227 members, including namely SMEs, which constitute about 119 members. There are also 40 scaling up support organizations, including researchers, intermediaries of research, and so on. The cluster also gathers 5 universities and 5 university hospitals. During the year 2020, we could organize 20 networking events, gathering more than 1,500 participants. We could also organize 6 international conventions with the participation of 44 SMEs. And in terms of grants, we granted 16 R&D projects for up to 35 million euros. The cluster is headed by Frank Grimaud, who is also the CEO of the company Valneva, which, as you know, are currently developing COVID-19 vaccine. In terms of innovation access, the cluster declines 3 historical axes. The first one being immunotherapy, with focus on cancer transplantation, autoimmune diseases, inflammation, and infections. Here we have 3 flagship companies, or maybe you know, also immunotherapeutics, Valneva for the vaccines, and Zenithera, this company being also currently developing COVID-19 antibodies. The second axis is regenerative medicine with 3 wings: cell therapy, gene therapy, and biomaterials, with special emphasis on osteoarticular diseases. The third one we are concerned with today is radiopharmaceuticals, with great focus in cancer in terms of diagnostic and therapy. And it is worth noting that in Nantes we have one of the largest, biggest cyclotron in the world. It's Aronax. They have also a history of immunotherapy, targeted immunotherapy here. We also gathered a handful of key accounts, for example, Mérieux, Pierre Fabre, MSD, Animal Health, Eurofence, Thermo Fisher, and Seva, Santé Animale. In terms of service offer to support business, as all the cluster, French clusters, we support our members through organization of networking events to help them work together and also to find partners for business and projects abroad and here. We also provide project engineering services, is to help companies together with other ecosystem members draft their grant application. You have to fund public fund for private fundraising to leverage public funding, and also we have can give access to our members to a wide range of research facilities. This thanks to our stakeholders, which are listed here. Now, what about the nuclear medicine innovation ecosystem? I have some troubles with my screen. I don't see. Okay. Sorry. We have a handful, about 20 players along the nuclear medicine value chain in our territory. The first one from exploratory research to production through preclinical development and clinical development. CRCNA is the Centre for Recherche en Cancérologie Nantes-Angers. They are engaged in exploratory research on different types of cancers with that can be treated with radiopharmaceuticals and nuclear medicine, medicine. Aronax, as I've just said, is the biggest cyclotron in the world, and they produce radionuclides. They also develop preclinical research and clinical research. They produce clinical batches for clinical trials, and they also produce radiopharmaceuticals for commercial purposes. And Subatec here help researchers and companies develop targets that are used to to produce radionuclides. Kiratech is an CRO engaged in preclinical research, namely pharmacologic studies, radiolabeling, and in vitro studies. Paulsalt deliver animal models for radiopharmaceutical studies. Oniris perform preclinical studies. They also have on large animals, pigs, bugs, and so on. And they also have a dosimetry platform to develop dosimetry techniques. Atlantic Bond Screen is also an CRO, and they develop antibodies, radiolabeled antibodies for bone cancer. And Janvier also provide animals for radiopharmaceutical studies. ICO and the University Hospital of Nantes are involved in clinical research and treatment. Keosis is a company that develops medical technology for clinical trials. The MEPACs develop radioprotective devices. Global Morphopharma develop, produce, and commercialize radionuclides and radiopharmaceuticals. ICATRE develop an radiography device for imaging, nuclear imaging, and Trischem develop agents and tests for radiochemistry. And now Gen is a company that develops, that produces research, researches, develops and produces a generator and an injector for the strontium, and generator and injector for imaging, cardiac imaging. Jonathan Coe developed radiolabeled antibodies for alpha therapy. So we also have some structuring projects funded by the French government. The first one is IRON, which is innovative radiopharmaceuticals for in oncology and neurology. And they also have some training modules. Aronax Plus is also a project funded by French government, and the particularity is that it gathers 5 platforms. The first one is a platform for the production of radionuclides. The second one is the platform for chemistry, for radiochemistry and radiopharmacy. They also realize preclinical and clinical research. And the last platform is dedicated to radiobiology and radiolysis. The LabX IGO is a project dedicated to the production of biomolecules, namely vectors that are used for radiolabeling. MabImprove is also a project focused on the production of new antibodies, which can be used for radiolabeling. And Ciric Eliad is a network of multidisciplinary research in the field of cancer with using the applications of radionuclide applications also. So on the next slide, I've given you the list of the members on the structuring projects, and also the links to if you need more information about them. Thank you.